Well, Graham, good to see you again. No football at the weekend, although I imagine it's been quite a busy week since we last spoke to you. A lot's happened, of course. Yes. I'll start with the most recent announcement. We learnt this morning that Brad Halliday has obviously left the football club and has joined Dundee. Just talk us through the decision behind that move and why Brad Halliday was allowed to leave the football club.
Yeah, I think obviously Brad's found game time hard to come by up to a certain point, apart from the cup games in the early part of the season. He came to see me, I can't remember the date, but it was sometime, probably a week to 10 days before he got back in the team, just recently. And we had a really good chat, and he said, look, I think I'll be leaving in January. I want to shake your hand when that happens, but I want the team to be flying, and whatever I can do to help that along, I'm all in. And that was it. And because there was a bit of disruption around January upcoming with the group, you know what I mean? And he just wanted to make it clear to me that he was just absolutely focused on this, and whatever happened in the future would happen. Obviously got in the team 10 days later, or a week later, played really well. Josh got back in, but I'd had a call from a couple of clubs about Brad. I think and then his agent spoke to us as a club, expressing that he would like to speak to them and all this. That's when we moved along with Harrison, and then Brad came he rang me at home on Monday, and then said that he wanted to come in and see me personally on Tuesday morning and explain what was going on. And he wanted to say bye to everyone personally, give everyone a hug. What a guy. And he's gone on to a 2.5-year deal at another club. And this is what the game is. You know, when your contract's running out, you're an experienced player. You've got a family. You've got a career to protect. And I've been in that situation several times in my 30s. And I always try to balance out the needs of the club between the needs of the player. And it was done in the best way possible. Probably the best sort of player leaving I've ever experienced in 12, 13 years. And I'm going to miss him because I told him yesterday he's been my sort of light bulb on some days. When he comes out in the freezing weather and he's got a t-shirt and shorts on and just ready to train, I just love that sort of character and personality. And I think a lot of people will miss him around the club. But I think obviously we've seen what's happened with Josh.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Doing so well this season. And it's natural progression, and Brad was really understanding of that, and he does what he does. He cracks on with life, and so we wish him well.
I'm mindful that we've got a lot to get through in this press conference, so I don't want to take up too much time on one topic, but just very briefly, the character, the attitude of the player that is Brad Halliday, and we've spoken this season about him embracing that squad player role and looking to help Josh integrate into the squad. Just, you know, having players like that with that approach and that attitude, I can imagine that means a lot to you as a manager to have that within your working environment.
100%, but we know not everyone's the same, so we understand that. But the more people you can have like that, the better it is. Not just for me as the manager or the coaching staff, but also for your teammates and the staff at the club and everything. It's just, wherever he goes, he's just going to be, he's going to put smiles on people's faces, and I'm sure he'll do that at Dundee as well. And so, yeah, look, we have a squad of 22, 24 players, all different backgrounds, different upbringings, different stories, but we try to create an environment where people can be the best version of themselves. But I think Brad will be like that wherever he is. Honestly, he's such a great lad. So yeah, I think he's been a shining light. And I've said it about other individuals at times, that a great example for me to use with other players, certainly younger players, that how to handle yourself as a pro, how you train, how you support your teammates, and how when you get your opportunity on the pitch, you're ready to take it. And you know, it was it's sad to see him go because he's a great lad. But listen, he's more than repaid the faith that the club showed in him. You know, when they took him before my time, obviously, but after a bad injury, and he's just banged out the games because of what he is.
And another player that played such a prominent role, particularly last season in the promotion, Alex Patterson, joining Walsall for an undisclosed fee. Similar question, the nature of that move.
Really similar, really similar. I think it's one where Pat was the same, and we have a sort of unwritten policy here of only doing contracts at the end of the season. Now that suits us as a club, but individuals can then go, well, that doesn't suit me, and I need to look after my career, this, that, the other, and that can happen. I understand that. I've been in that scenario, like I said before. So Pato's agent expressed a desire to follow through on a few inquiries to David Sharp, and when this opportunity came up, Pato wanted to take it, and we. Like Brad, like other players that have moved on in the summer, will move on in January or have moved on. Without a doubt, they've played a part in what has been a successful time for this club. And whenever they think back to this time, and or whenever people think of them at this time, they will think of them as promotion winners with medals around their neck. And that's a good way to leave a football club.
Tom McIntyre, another player to leave. We learned that the club had exercised the option to terminate his loan deal. Why was that decision made in regards to Tom?
Yeah, Tom came to see me a week today, actually, before, and just spoke about his scenario and how his last year had gone with not playing much football and so forth. And just wanted to see where he stood in the grand scheme of things. And I spoke to him at length, for about 10 minutes, and then we had a day off the next day, and I came back in Friday, and after what he'd said about him not playing football, he needed to play football, this, that, the other. I said to him on Friday, I'm going to take the decision now, because I left it up to him. And he's had a great time here, but he came here for game time in football, and he's another absolute energy, one of the best guys ever met, brilliant personality, and really popular within the group. And but I spoke to him on the Friday and I said, I'm taking the decision out of your hands. I think this is what needs to happen. If I was your agent now, or your dad, or your brother, I would be saying this to you. You know what I mean? You have to go out and play football, and I can't sit here and guarantee that you play 1 game or 10 games or 15. And I think it would be dangerous for you to go a whole season or a season and a half without playing when you're coming out of contract. So it was a similar thing. And but another guy who's I spoke to him after as well, and he sent great messages to the group and to myself and everything. Just a genuine guy, and he certainly played a part in what we've done so far this season. On the pitch in certain games, off the pitch, how he's trained, been around the group and supporting, ready to play. So it worked out from my side as a manager building a squad, but probably not from his side, as in playing the amount of games that he would have hoped to do. But he did recognise well how much competition he's got in that position, and he leaves as well with our best wishes, and we really hope everyone goes on to continue their career. Yeah,
and then of course Andy Cook.
Yes,
and that development has certainly attracted a lot of attention naturally because of his time at the football club and what he's done. How hard a decision was that for you as manager, or was it a simple one? How did that one unfold?
Well, obviously, I can talk about game time and injury and all this, but there's no point in going that. Might as well go straight to the sort of the last week or so. But I think everything comes to an end at some point. And is it an easy decision or a hard decision? It's depending which way you're coming at it from. So from a professional position, for me only, it was an easy decision because of all the factors and the facts and my ideas of progressing and going forward. From an emotional point of view and what he means to the club and the support, that's when it became really difficult. But I believe in making decisions, not easy decisions, but the right decisions. And that's what I get paid to do, but it's what my life has been. And I've made those tough decisions on my own career. When I've left the club captain, and walking out the door crying my eyes out, but I made the decision. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I knew professionally it was the right thing to do. So I had to go back to what my beliefs are about professional sport, professional sports people, the responsibility I have that's entrusted in me to make the best decision for the future of Bradford City, that's when it became clear. I wouldn't say it was easy or hard, but it came clear to me that and look, it was a decision that it's not a decision that I didn't say you have to leave the club, but I explained what the picture would look like for the next 4 or 5 months, like I did with Brad and other players in the past, maybe in the summer and in the summer before that, where I say, this is the picture. It's up to you what you want to do with it. You know what I mean? And that, because ultimately everyone's got contracts where they can sit on those contracts. But Cookie's a footballer, and he's always been the main guy or a main guy. And I know when that ceases to be the case, that you lose something from that player, or if you're that player, you lose something. Because I've been that player. Yeah. And when you're used to playing regular football week in, week out, to then not be that person, it's a difficult scenario to manage, without a shadow of a doubt. And he's in the same boat as a couple of the other guys, where he's not played regular football for 12 months. If he goes another 4 or 5 months without that, he's going to be there regardless of what he's done in the past. I know, because I've been there, I played till I was 40. The first thing clubs say, well, you're this age, you haven't played for this long, da-da-da. I think you have to understand where you're in your strongest position and try and go from there as a player. And I think it was the right thing all round. But of course, I'm aware of what Andy Cook has done for this club in the previous 5 years, without a shadow of a doubt.
As a manager, how hard is that balance between head versus heart? I suppose the balance that you just explained there.
Well, I believe you get better at it as you make more decisions, you know, and when you can reference hard decisions you made on your own career, I think it gives you an understanding of the whole picture. And I have to, you know, when I'm making any single decision, it's not just it's a single decision, but there's so many factors to it, and so, you know, because I'm right in the hub of everything, you know, support, bosses, team, squad, staff, the lot, it all comes into the equation. But I have a real clear idea of where we had to make changes when we first came in. We had to make changes after 6 months, 12 months, 18 months to keep progressing this club forward, because that is what I'm tasked with. If I'm tasked with something else, I will focus on that task. But if I've got a specific task, nothing really gets in the way of that specific task. You know, I've always been task orientated. So that perspective keeps it clear for me. I can still take all the information, all the repercussions or ideas and different people's ideas on it, but ultimately I can break it down to what am I tasked with as a responsible manager, and that's where I had to come to it. And sometimes I can see things because I've been there myself, and sometimes the player doesn't see it. And I didn't see certain things when I was a player, and I almost lied to myself sometimes. And then when you come out of it, you go, actually, that was the right thing to do, or right thing to happen. And I hope in some point along the line, Cookie will see that. If he goes on to play for another 5 years and gets another 200 games and scores 50, 60, 70 goals, that's when you go, actually, that was the right time to leave. And that's how I see it. I think all things come to an end, all things. But I try not to focus my life on the end of something. I actually take the thing as a whole and go, well, what did that look like? And how good was that? And I think Andy Cook's come here, 5 years ago. He leaves as the 4th top scorer in the club's history. He leaves with a medal around his neck. And the last goal he scored is against his beloved Newcastle United at St James's Park. I hope they're the headlines that he remembers and everyone else remembers from his spell here, as long as there's other stories to tell, obviously. Yeah. But they're the bullet points that I would focus on. If I was Cookie and if I was somebody else that's probably hurting at the minute, I understand that. I've been there myself. So I want to, but I have to have a clarity about the decisions I make, and that's what it is, really.
I'm mindful of this next question that, of course, you've brought new faces in this window already, but from an external standpoint, looking at the news that's come through, there may be a concern from some fans that, particularly in the case of Andy, Brad, Alex, long-term players of the football club, big part of the nucleus, that they've all gone in quick succession. Was that part of the deliberation, the culture that you've built, some key stakeholders within that, all leaving in quite quick succession in the culture that you've built?
No, we didn't have a plan, right? This has to happen, bang, 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 because like at the end of the day, it's they've gone to other clubs, so other clubs dictate that a little bit. You know, by coming, if no one had come in for our players, nothing would have been happening. You know, if it had come all in the last 2 days and everyone suddenly come for these players, then it might happen then. But so we, like I said a week ago, maybe we don't work in a like singularly in a transfer window. We work in connection with the football world. So, but it wasn't they've not come straight out of, probably Pato's played the most this season, I would say, but they haven't come straight out of playing week in, week out to then, right, it's suddenly like this scalpel that's took players out. You know, Cookie, unfortunately, because he got injured 12 months ago, has missed a lot of football. Brad hasn't been in the team as much this season. Pato's been in and out for different reasons, either performance or picked up a couple of injuries, concussion and stuff. But when the common theme with all three of them were they were out of contract this summer, and they weren't in the team. I can't sit in front of any player and ask them to stay and believe in something when they're not in a team and they've got 6 months left in a contract. I've been that guy on that side, and I did have 5 months of not playing any football at all at the end of my contract, and then left and didn't have a club to go to, and had to go on trial in pre-season. So I wouldn't want to wish that on another player, to be honest. Certainly players that are established and had brilliant careers and will continue to go and have really good careers. So that's the thing. These players, I've got empathy with all of them because I've sat in their seats and worn their boots. So that's what it is. So there was no grand plan, but every transfer window we go into, we do have a plan going into it, but every window we go, can we be better when we come out of it than we went in? So we work hard. We try to bring in new faces, obviously, because there won't be a club in the land that doesn't rotate their squad in some capacity. So, but obviously there's different feeling around different players. But I hope them going out at this stage doesn't diminish at all. Like I said last summer about certain players that left last season, doesn't diminish or put a shadow over what they helped this club achieve, because they all played massive parts.
Yeah. Appreciate your transparency on all of that. In terms of the incomings then, you've obviously welcomed 2 players from Newcastle in Joe and Harrison. Yeah. What was it about them both then that attracted you to them, and how have they settled in the early stages?
They've settled in really well. They came in and trained the other day, so trained again today. I think Joe is someone that we actually spoke to in the summer about potentially coming here as well. But he had lots of options, and he weren't too sure about which position he wanted to play in, because he's quite adaptable. And he chose to go somewhere where he was going to play in a different position when it didn't quite work out for him there at Leyton Orient. And so we picked up his agent picked up the phone again to us, because he knew our previous interest. And nothing had changed from my perspective, as in where he would compete for. And he wanted to crack on with it. So I think he's a really technically quality player. He's had a tough time in the first half of the season, but he's shown his quality last season with 6 or 7 goals from good areas. And Harrison obviously played in the Championship last year on loan, looking to get out. Didn't want to go all the way through the window waiting when we spoke to him. He wanted to get something done early. So he did have interest from the Championship, but it might have been later in the window, and he was determined to get out and play football and compete for a first team straight away. So I knew about the scenario with Brad, so it was and when Brad's agent intimated that there was something definite on there, we just pushed the button really on Harrison. I think they're good players, good age. They've been out, played football to different levels, but they're coming from a fantastic club with where you have to show your quality to be there. And I think they're both hungry players that are really keen to sort of join what we've been doing so far. Yeah,
and in terms of further incomings this window, it's been widely reported by a number of outlets that you're close to agreeing a deal with Ethan Wheatley on loan from Manchester United, a player that spent the first half on loan, at Northampton. Yeah. How accurate is that? Is that the case? And what can you say, if anything, on that front?
Yeah, look, we've still got business to do. I won't talk about a player. I know there's speculation. We start talking about January and start of December or something like that. But I'm always we have consistency in how we behave, or we try to as much as possible. And rather than talk about ifs and maybes and whatevers, I think we go, right, we do our business, and then we're free to talk about it 1 minute after it happening. So there's other players out there. There is players that we've spoke to that we see as potential signings for us. Some are we're keen on doing it anyway, regardless, and some are, if something happens with one of our players, then we can move forward that if. So, but that's plans, but I would expect every professional football club to have contingency plans in place. So there's several players that, and we get players put to us because I feel that we're in a really good spot, which can, I think, exciting for a player to join what we're doing and try and contribute. So even though we've got a pool of players that we're keeping an eye on, that gets added to daily by people putting their players forward, either through clubs or through the agents. And I think that's good that people see us as a good destination to go and enjoy your football, be competitive, and play in an environment that we've created at Valley Parade, which is sensational, really.
My last question on January, I promise you that.
Okay.
Do you expect any more outgoings this window from the existing squad?
Yeah, I think there'll be one or two. I do. It's if I'm being realistic about it, and I've been in it a long time, so I would see one or two potentials outgoing, and that's why we're still working on potential incomings. If we thought that was it, we would just close the book and crack on with playing games of football, which I'd like to do. But it's no, that's it. So I would expect one or two to potentially move on for game time and different reasons. And if they do, we'll hopefully have replacements to come in and have the best squad we can possibly have on February 2nd.
Let's talk about football. Cardiff. Obviously, top of the table, great opposition for you to face, I'm sure. It really feels from an external standpoint like Saturday's set up to be a really great game of football. I know from your perspective it will be just another game, but there is that furore leading up to it.
Yeah, no, there is. Look, I think we've created that certainly around all our home games. I think there's an excitement around Valley Parade at all home games anyway. But obviously, we're always well aware of the profile of a game. It's just, and and days leading, we don't, as a staff, we don't talk any differently from game to game. Honestly, we prepare for every game in exactly the same way. But there's obviously people are aware of the team that's coming, where they are in the league, all that sort of thing. So it'd be stupid to just say ignore that, but we don't acknowledge it because it's just our biggest thing is getting our A game all the time. So whether it's top league, bottom league, it doesn't really matter for us. But I think the fans will be excited by it. I think both sets of supporters will be excited by it because it's two teams that have been at the top end of the table since the early weeks. Had a fantastic game down there, and obviously we came out on top. But I thought it was a really good game of football from both teams. You could see the quality on show. And I would expect the game on Saturday to be similar in quality. So we obviously want to win the game, as we always do. But these are the games that we've worked exceptionally hard and earned the right to be involved in. So, but it won't define the season for either team. There's still loads of games after it, 20 odd games after that. But yeah, it's a good one that whets the appetite.
From a team news standpoint, how are you looking going into it? I know obviously Bobby's been missing lately, and Matt Pennington, was he at all close?
Yeah. They with the postponement of the last game, they've had an extra week of training, which has certainly helped those two in preparation for Saturday. So they're further ahead than they would have been last Saturday, which is a bonus for them and for us. But we're really we've got a really strong squad at the moment, as in availability. Yeah. I think everyone, bar Nick Powell, is out on the training pitch. So we're really pleased because we come to a busy period. We've had a busy period over Christmas. We've had a little lull, We've got another hectic one ahead of us, but so we need 22 players to make sure we're in the best possible position. And they're training so well. The energy there, it's been fantastic. So everyone's looking forward to it.
And just finally from me, very quickly, the first time the club's had a chance to commemorate the very sad passing of Terry Yorath, which we learned of last week. Obviously someone that was hugely influential to Bradford City, but also just football in this country generally.
Yeah, look, it's obviously his attachment to Bradford City especially goes on in different spells, but certainly the in the 80s, in being on the staff of the promotion winning team, being involved in the fire and all that sort of thing, and then coming back, and his wider sort of influence on the game. Actually played for my hometown club, Coventry, in the 70s. So it's weird because I was only a young kid there, and I didn't know of his history. We like playing for Leeds and all that sort of stuff. You only at 8 years old, you just see the player that's playing for Coventry. It's only when you get older and then you realise the stature of the man, really, in a playing and coaching perspective and overall football, that you actually think, oh, I saw him when I was 8 years old, running around for Coventry City. So it was I've read lots of stuff on him, and obviously touched by tragedy with the fire, and then obviously what happened to his son, horrific circumstances. So, but all the sort of words spoken by all the people that knew him, in football, just from afar, what a proper guy. Even right to the end. I heard Stuart talking to you about him, visiting him in the hospital and everything. That says everything. So hopefully, playing Cardiff, obviously a Welsh club on Saturday, so it'll be a poignant day, and hopefully we can do his memory justice.
Great.
Okay, mate.
Is there a different feel about the Cardiff game in that most home games Bradford go into, they're total favourites with people outside the game, but with this one, because of the league positions, it's a lot more equal?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that at the start of the season and that we were nailed on favourites. Like when we first come into the division, the calibre of the teams that were coming to play us at Valley Parade, I don't think that was the case. I thought it was, we were the underdogs without a shadow of a doubt, but we've shown that we can take our quality and our form from League Two into League One, and definitely at Valley Parade. And so I like the fact that there's a respect for our results, for the quality we have in our team, and the actual match day experience for teams. It's not an easy place to play at, and because of several reasons. The team is very good. The crowd are really behind the home team. That's the two biggest things you really need as if you're a real competitor. And I think that's what we've shown in the first half of the season. Now we've got to do the second half of the season in the same manner.
And when you look at the three older players who've left, in Pato, Brad and Andy Cook, that's a lot of experience that's gone from the dressing room.
Yeah.
How do you replace that when you bring in younger players in, or can other players step up?
Well, I think we're blessed with a lot of experience already. So we're not completely dependent on two or three individuals to have that experience. And look, there's good experience, there's bad experience, there's there's character, there's personality. Experience is just a small element of it. To be honest, in the whole makeup of any football team or individual player. So I think that's how we run things. We don't run it on an individual character leading the group or taking on the responsibility. It's a collective. So it's what we've tried to build up over 2 years. So if any individual missing, our captain or so forth, we still have what is required to behave right, train right, play to win. That's what we've tried to create, and it takes time to do that. It takes windows, it takes opportunities to sift through characters and personalities, but ultimately that's what you want. Where any individual drops out, the team is still so strong, and I think that's what we've created at this club, and we have to continue to create it. That's all the target we've got, every opportunity we have. Look, the different players leave for different reasons and have different attributes. Experience is one of those things, but I believe we've got a lot of games in that change room that know how to win a game of football.
Yes.
Okay, mate?
You're saying, Graham, about obviously the respect that's been built up this team with the rest of the division, and perhaps people in football see how well you've done this season. I mean, talking about each game as keeping feet on the ground, just looking at the next game. The word promotion keeps popping up, starting to pop up in conversations. I think Louis Sibley mentioned.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
I'll give him a slap for that.
I was going to say, has it become a bit more of a challenge to keep things level when people are starting to talk about you in a conversation, because naturally it's halfway the season and you are where you are?
Well, look, I think it's because our league position that dictates that conversation. That wasn't a conversation with anybody at the start of the season before we played a game. So I'd be disappointed if there was a conversation about it outside of here and we weren't being mentioned because of our position, and we've been consistently up there. But yeah, I did see Louis' headline, and as a new player coming into the group and all this, and I haven't spoken to him, but I haven't slapped him or anything like that. Trust me. But I just think we have to. Look, he's new into the group, and he's we do things in a certain way, and it takes time to understand that. So even though we were one of the biggest clubs in League Two, if not the biggest, with high expectation, we never talked about that word anyway. We talked about that target right in front of us, and that's the next game and how hard it is and how we have to overcome it. Because I think talking too far ahead, it's unnecessary. It's distracting, I believe, for players when they have to look at what a tough game we have on Saturday and then next Saturday and Saturday after that. But we want to be in a conversation where people think we're a good team and we've got the opportunity to be successful. Why wouldn't you want to have that? But I think it's important that we don't talk about that too much, and listen, because I think sometimes when people are talking about what they are, it's because it's not recognised for what they are, so they're trying to convince everyone else that's what they are. I think if other people are saying about it, then that's genuine, and I think other people are saying that we've got a good football team here and a good football squad and a good club and a brilliant support and all those sort of things, but it's noisy. It's being said by other people outside of Bradford. I think that's a good thing.
Is it easier to keep that noise at arm's length in terms of within the dressing room, as you say, just focuses this Saturday, then it's the following Saturday, then it's the following Tuesday?
Yeah, but it is because that's the only thing we can control really, is our domain, our conversations, our behaviours, all that sort of thing. So it's I would say relatively easy to do that. You can't control the outside noise, so don't focus on it. But I think that from day one of pre-season, as we did last season, we set our targets, and our target was be competitive in every game. That's all we have to be. And then when it got to the first game of the season, can we win this game? And that's it. And then we just reset every single week, every midweek, to be in the same headspace. And I know it's boring. I know it's boring to talk like that. I know people want exciting words or things like that, but I want the team to be the exciting thing about this club, and I just believe we've had a consistent mindset, and I've spoke at length in my early tenure about the need for consistency, and the only place consistency comes from is your mind, and I think we've got good players, good staff, good people around the club, above us at the club, and I think we've got good supporters as well. I think the supporters can think differently to us. I want them to get excited and carried away a little bit. You know what I mean? I like that, because if you're supporting your team and you don't feel like that, then I think that's what you want to be excited going to a game of football, and you want to be excited going away from it, looking forward to the next one. So they can afford to think differently, but us as professionals, we have to be focused on the task, and I think we've done that exceptionally well over the last 15, 18 months, to be fair.
There's obviously a part of it as a player when other people sort of say this is a good team, these are good players, you can see where they are. It must make you feel stand a bit straighter, a bit taller.
Yeah, I get that, because everyone likes recognition and positive recognition. I don't think anyone's shied away from a pat on the back or, well done. I think that's good to have. But I get that I get that from walking off the training pitch this morning, seeing how the players train and how they interact with each other. And then we go into the canteen, and there's a couple of guests here that overlooking the loan players, and, from different clubs, and they see the environment that's there with lads playing pool, playing darts, watching the analysis on the TV, eating together, staff and the players all integrated and all this lot. That I look at that and feel proud about that, because it's a room that I want to walk in and be in, and so do other people. So there's loads of little things, because I'm an old man, that please me. They're not exciting for other people, but I see the good in humans and relationships and all that sort, and a team being built and a feeling, and that's where I get my joy from. You know what I mean? And then on Saturdays winning, because that's what we're all in this game to do. So I regardless of what happens outside of this, our environment, I get my pride every day from how the players work and how the staff work and how we always strive to be better the next day.
Obviously, with the January scenario as it's bobbling along, how easy is it to sort of keep a lid on things in terms of keeping things pretty much as a regular work day, when you've got players coming in, you've got players going out, you've got potential players coming in and out, because it would be easy for that uncertainty to sort of creep in.
Well, look, I think football's a fast-changing game, and you play different opponents every week, and there's different venues and that. So there's a lot of things that change from week to week anyway. So that's why we work in a consistent way. So if ever there is changes or new players leaving, players coming in, games postponed, that there's a consistency how we behave that the players can rely on. And they go, actually, they feel comfortable because, well, that hasn't changed. The manager's not talking in a different way. Why are we having this meeting? We don't usually have this meeting. We have a consistent way of working, win, lose, draw. This is how we work to breed that consistency. And then, because I think a familiarity of how you work, and that gives the players confidence that they have to just focus on what they have to do to perform. So it takes time, and it takes, I think, you have to drive it first as a manager, and then your staff, and maybe your captain at first, in the early days. But then players walk into it from different environments, and they pick it up, and then all of a sudden the players are running it. They're driving it, and it's just you're just guiding it a little bit, and that's what I think we have it. And I think so when there's different things happening, there's a lot of consistency in what we do week in, week out anyway. And I think that's where it keeps everyone just on a balance, really, to be honest.
Obviously, when you're making big decisions, players such as Brad or Andy Cook going, obviously, where it's a tough decision or big calls to make. In terms of the dressing room, perhaps looking at their manager to sort of see, this is a strong decision he's made here, and in a way they want to sort of see your reaction in these sort of scenarios, perhaps.
Well, look, obviously everything I do or say will be picked up on by players. I was no different. That's why we are managers and leaders of groups and stuff like that. And you need to guide the way, and that's why I try to be I live in a consistent way. We work in a consistent way, and I make decisions in a consistent way. And over time, the players understand that, and then everyone knows the rules of engagement and how we do things. And I think that's important. That's what I think it was the decision. We've come, or I've certainly come to, but we as a club have come to. Certainly, Andy moving on was based on those consistent facts. I can't then, just because of how he did he hasn't played much from the last year because of injury. I didn't drop him because of injury, but the 4 years before that, unbelievable player. But I can't bring that forward and take it into my decision makers. Then the players go, hold on a second, something's changed, and then it becomes, and then
you're treating players differently.
That's it. And I have a responsibility to these players, all our players, to create an environment where there's consistency in it, and that's how it is. So I don't make decisions to make me look any different or anything. I do things to what helps this club go forward, and what helps these group of players understand this is how it goes here. So I have to be consistent with all our players as much as I possibly can. But there is different factors in different individuals. I get that. And a lot goes through my mind on different decisions. But I break it down to real clear bullet points that I would have sat in the interview when I first came to Bradford and said, I'm going to behave this way. I can't change 18 months down the line. And they say, well, actually, I'm not going to do it this time. I can't do that because it's important I'm authentic with what I said I was going to do. And, but I also understand that people become attached to other human beings because of what they've done in the past. I get all those things. So, but we move forward as football does. And we wish every player that's moved on the best going forward. But now we have to really focus, everybody, on the players putting a Bradford City shirt on Saturday.
And also in terms of, as a manager, presumably the more experience you get when you're making those calls that are perceived as bigger calls than perhaps other players coming and going.
Yeah.
Presumably when you did that the first time, early on in your career, you'd probably been a little bit it'd be more of a battle mentally, wouldn't it? Because you haven't sort of got an experience to fall back on and sort of shown you've done it before, sort of thing.
I get that, but if I go back to that, I did make a similar decision after being a manager for a month, involving the club captain in the first club I took over, and I'd been there a month, and but it was based again on my own experience of being in that particular player's shoes. So from that respect, I made the same decision 13 years ago. You know what I mean, with the club captain who'd won promotion at my first club. But my reference point was my own career and how I wanted to be treated and how I wanted to play every single week. And I recognise that in certain animals. There's certain players that don't have to play every week, and they're perfectly okay with that. But there's others that they have to be on that pitch every week. And then and I've been that player. So then I can actually have empathy with that player and understand that I might have made decisions for the betterment of him. So, but you do maybe change the way you communicate that and understand that you have to communicate in a different way. But I was manager for a month, bullet at a gate. Let's crack on, you know what I mean? But I've tried to do things a little bit differently, but it's still on the same basis of the right decision for the club going forward.
Graham, there'll be fans who are sad to see Brad leave today. They'll have heard what you said to Jamie about you being sad for him to leave. And I guess some of them will say, well, he was under contract. Why couldn't we just say no? Can you just sort of explain to us the difference between real life and a computer game in situations like this?
Yeah, 100% I could say no. But then, without a shadow of a doubt, but then for 5 months I've got an unhappy player and I'm not even playing him. You know what I mean? I can sort of half justify sitting in front of a player and saying you're not going anywhere when he's playing every week. I can actually give him no use. But when he's not playing, what's my argument to say, you know what I mean, just in case somebody gets injured or just like that? I think that's a really difficult decision. Sometimes I have to be a little bit more direct with a younger player because I don't think they've got the experience to make the right decision, or this is part of growing up as a professional football. But once you're 27, 28, you've got kids, all that. Honestly, we treat our players like men, and we understand their home life while they're playing for us. But I can't just then ignore it when it suits me or suits the club. So it's a balance, and I always have to do what's right for the club. But also know going forward, if you keeping a player against his will, he's not really going to buy into what we're doing anyway, is he? And I'm not saying that would have been the case with Brad, Corky, Pato, or any other player. But I think there's something missing if you're being held against your will, to be honest. I want people who want to be here every single day. And sometimes that happens and they still have to move on. That's where it is, really. You know what I mean? I couldn't sit there and have a justifiable argument or discussions, I should say, in front of Brad to keep him here when he isn't playing every week. It's a real difficult scenario for a manager to be in, to be honest.
And just in terms of incomings, given what you said to Simon before about outside perceptions of the club, do you think higher up the pyramid, you talk a lot about culture, that other clubs are starting to recognise the culture here and are therefore more keen to loan you their players?
Potentially. I don't know. Look, I don't go around canvassing other clubs what they think about us, really. But look, football's a village, isn't it? There's a lot of communication between clubs, players move, agents, speak to all clubs, staff move and everything. So I think if you've been at a club or if you've been in the game for a certain amount of time, you build up a reputation or you build up a knowledge of what you are and stuff like that, and then people can see it, and. So like I said before, it's not us saying it. If it's other clubs saying it, then I would believe it's genuine, and then another club might pick up on it. So, I think there's several ways for you, but it's only it's only through consistency of how you behave that becomes real. Then that perception, because if someone, well, we heard this, you know what I mean, then it's like, well, what is it? Is it that end or is that end? But I believe if people are listening to people within our club, they go, oh, that's consistent. I heard that from over there as well, and I heard it there. And I think that's what I would believe other clubs would loan us players, because I think we've had success with loan players, and before my time as well with other loan players. And but it's an environment that probably tests young players to sort of level that they might get tested when they go back to their senior club, as in the pressure on Bradford City and the crowd that they're playing, and the sort of position we're in, where the importance to win is really vital.
Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it feels like in this era of loan managers, clubs like Newcastle, like Everton, are pickier in terms of the profile of the club they're loaning players to, rather than just where they're going to play games.
Yeah, I think they care for their players, and they care for the investment in the players, and they've probably had these players since 8 years old, so they're not just going to like treat them and go on, see you later. So they're going to do a lot of homework and that. So but I think that's good, because I think then us as clubs, we have to have a real solid sort of profile and reputation to be able to sit in front of people and be genuine with it and authentic. So I think it's everyone analyses a lot of stuff now, because you don't want to make mistakes, and so I think it's good behaviour from the parent club to do that. But I think it keeps us level-headed and make sure we're doing the right things. So if a Premier League club is asks us, what do we do here, or they come and observe like they have done today, they see good habits, they see good environments. I think that's a good place to be, because I think we all aspire to be the best version of ourselves. So but I don't know what other clubs think of us in general. You know what I mean? So there's only a small pool that I've spoke to that I do think we've got a good reputation as a football club.
And it's not just Cardiff. There's plenty of big clubs in this division, but to have a game like Saturday's against a club that's relatively recently been in the Premier League and everything about it, does it feel like a tangible reward for what you did last season to be playing in these games as an equal partner, not just like a cup game?
I wouldn't say it was a reward. I'd say it was a challenge that we deserve to be facing. That's what I'd say. I'd say, when you play teams in cup competition, get high level, it's like, right, now we see what we're about. So when we go to Blackburn, Stoke, Newcastle, then you go, actually we can compete to a certain level, and then maybe a bit too far for another one. But I think it's good. I think it's good for that. So when we come up against these clubs that, like you say, have been in the Premier League recently, I think it's a challenge that we want to take on. That's it. We want to continually test ourselves, against these clubs that have been at this level and have this financial sort of aspect to them. I think it's brilliant for us as a club. So I wouldn't say a reward, because I don't think we'd be facing it in the right way if we said that. But certainly the challenge that we have, we deserve to be challenging these teams and showcasing what we are as a club. I think that's the best thing, and I think the biggest thing that this club is showing, and the players in particular show that, and the supporters, there's a great self-worth about what we are. You know what I mean? I think we're proud of what we are, and I think that's one of the biggest things in life, that you're sort of content with what you're showcasing yourself to be, but you're still aspiring to be better, and I think that sums us up as a club.
And do you think for those new players who are experiencing it for the first time, they obviously came here, they realise they're coming to a big club, but maybe just make them realise that it's even bigger than I thought, Yeah,
I think that has been the case. I think there's been several players this season where they've seen what happened last year, and then they've seen it again this year, and they've gone, oof, right, okay, it was real, and I weren't quite expecting that, because seeing it from afar or seeing it on TV is diluted from being right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And walking out that tunnel and then scoring a last-minute goal, in front of 20,000. That's when it's inside you, and it's your heart's beating and that. So I think our players have certainly the ones who have joined in the summer this season have seen the reality of how good it can be. But we know also how much hard work we have to put into to make it that way.